colleagues. Today I'm here to talk about the Intercultural Development Continuum and how this can help intercultural mediators. So do intercultural mediators need to hone an intercultural mindset? How does this relate to intercultural mediation in healthcare? Well, this Intercultural Development Continuum is a concept that describes a set of knowledge and skills and attitudes, a set of orientations towards cultural differences and commonality that are basically arrayed along a continuum. So it goes from a monocultural mindset of denial and polarization to a more transitional orientation called minimization into the intercultural or global mindsets of acceptance and adaptation. So this continuum was adapted from the developmental model of intercultural sensitivity that was originated by Milton Bennett, and it's really helpful for us to gauge ourselves within this continuum in order to really see if we can attain the skills to be able to connect with providers and patients despite their cultural differences. So let's talk about the 5 stages, right? Okay, so the first one, I mentioned it already, denial. And this denial mindset, it really reflects a more limited capability for understanding and appropriately responding to cultural differences and values, beliefs, perception, emotional responses, and behaviors. Denial consists of a lack of information, of disinterest in other cultures, and even an active avoidance of cultural differences. Individuals with a denial orientation often don't see the differences in perceptions and behavior as cultural. So denial orientation is characteristic of individuals who have a limited experience with other cultural groups. Therefore, they tend to operate in broad stereotypes and generalizations about the other. And those in denial also maintain a certain distance from other groups and express little interest in learning about the cultural values and practices of diverse communities. This orientation tends to be more associated with members of the dominant culture and as well as members of the non-dominant culture who perhaps want to associate with the dominant culture. This can happen as well. So, individuals sometimes who feel isolated themselves. So there's sometimes a sentiment of fear of the unknown, and when denial is present in the workplace, cultural diversity oftentimes is ignored. It's something difficult. The majority of monocultural individuals ignore and inadvertently or purposely exclude or diminish those that are different as someone of a lower status. A denial mindset actually has a need to impose their power by being the majority. And, members of non-dominant groups are more actively engaged usually with this larger mainstream society, so they're less likely to maintain a denial orientation because more often than not, they need to engage in these differences just in order to survive. So the attempt to blend into the majority is normally seen as a means of self-protection and alignment with a more powerful group. So when we're in the majority group, likewise, we negate sometimes others the ability to be themselves. So as intercultural mediators, we need to be very cognizant of how we're perceiving ourselves and being perceived. While we may perceive ourselves to be in the minority group, others may perceive us as being in the majority group. So in effect, as bicultural and bilingual individuals, or multicultural and multilingual individuals, you know, we belong to several groups, and we need to be able to feel comfortable in switching and perceiving ourselves in that way, which is, we'll discuss a little bit later. So, you know, we're going to look at always how to work with those that are in denial. We need to identify the phase, you know, so that we can be aware of where individuals we're working with are, so that we can, you know, tread carefully not to offend or, you know, question an individual. But really, our purpose is to make them comfortable with the unknown, to improve their rapport, and really minimize this fear.